Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to your HIMediaTV news update. Getting us caught up on a couple things. That's why we're getting a couple more today. By Colin Woodard at Jalopnik, which is a car enthusiast magazine. Um, so a while ago, there was a investigation going into the Sean Fain, head of the UAW, and it's come out that apparently that the reason why that investigation had started in the first place was because Neil Barofsky, the federal union monitor appointed to, as part of a deal with the federal government to not get clamped down on further, the union agreed to allow to as an anti-corruption measure to do two things. One, have a direct election with union members as opposed to like internal monk leadership, which is kind of like why the UAW has kind of been stagnant for so many years. And it's also, coincidentally, how we got Sean Fain, one of the most active and loved union members, union presidents in a very long time, due to his work and sort of clawing back the rights that were given up in the wake of the '08 financial crisis to basically bail out the industry. And this man, Neil Barofsky, who is in charge for keeping an eye on the United Auto Workers Union, allegedly took issue with Sean Fain calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and used his position to pressure Fain to change course. Shane refused, upsetting Barofsky enough to announce a new investigation into the union. In September of 2020, UAW President Dennis Williams pled guilty to conspiracy to embezzle use of funds. He was the 15th person by the Justice Department's long-running investigation of corruption into union corruption, the second consecutive UAW president to earn a prison sentence. He is succeeded by Fain. Fain went to lead an incredibly successful strike against the Detroit Big Three, and then pulled off a surprise win when when a Volkswagen factory in Tennessee voted to unionize Tennessee, a notoriously anti-union state. And yet, it wasn't until the UAW formally came out in favor for a ceasefire that things reportedly got heated between Fain and Neil Barofsky. This is the federal union. This was a quote. The move did not set well with supporters of Israel's war. Among them, Neil Barofsky. He let Fain know about it directly on December the 14th. 2 weeks after the UAW released its statement, Fain appeared on Capitol Hill for a press conference with members of Congress calling for a ceasefire. The evening before, according to a source familiar with the conversation, Barofsky called Fain and urged him to rethink the union position. Barofsky said that it had pained him to see the UAW's dual logo in anti-war protests where UAW members were present, and he told Fain that there had been repeated instances of anti-Semitism at his protest. Barofsky told Fain he was not calling at the federal monitor, who has nearly unchecked power of the union, but merely in his personal capacity. Fain told Barofsky, the source said, that the ceasefire resolution was in no way anti-Semitic or even pro-Palestine, but simply an expression of the union's desire for peace. Fain added that it was impossible for the monitor to call the union president in a strictly personal capacity, given the power dynamic at play, but the union intended to stand by its call for a ceasefire, and he would be appearing at the press conference on Capitol the next day. The event went off as planned. So Barofsky, not liking that call, sent a letter to the UAW's International Executive Board after the Anti-Defamation League, one of the biggest financial recipients of APAC money and one of the political operative arms used at sort of quelling at both making life difficult for Palestinians living in the diaspora, as well as financially attempting to ruin anyone who was deliberately pro-Palestinian. And he, in his letter, he complained about the union's demand for a ceasefire in Gaza, and in particular the actions of the local 7902 in support of the same. In his letter to the IEB, Barofsky wrote, "Although this issue is outside the monitor's jurisdiction, we think it is important to forward the message to the IEB, given the serious concerns raised here." So, obviously, an admission that he was going outside of his duties and overstepping his authority. He also previously admitted to pressuring Fain, saying, "For what it's worth, I had previously shared with Sean similar concerns that were raised directly to me shortly after the EIB issued its own ceasefire statement. Later that month, the EIB held its quarterly meeting, and at this time, Brodsky joined remotely. When confronted about how inappropriate his behavior was, Brodsky doubled down, and the union had to listen to the ADL. Members of the board were reportedly shocked that he would continue to try and change the union's mind about its call for ceasefire. A few days later, the UAW's lawyer sent Brodsky a letter calling him out on his overreach. You called President Fain and introduced your conversation with President Fain as one that was strictly on a personal level, during which time you shared with President Fain your personal concern about his position on President Gaza. Your call to President Fain on the issue was so blatantly outside the monitor's jurisdiction, was inappropriate as your office holds disproportionate power over the UAW, and even strictly personal sharing of your opinion implicitly implicates such power dynamic. Nonetheless, out of respect for you and the office of monitor, President Fain discussed the conversation with only those in his circle and chose not to escalate the improper exchange any further. 6 days after the union sent this letter, Brodsky announced he was opening an investigation into the union over a disagreement Fain had with the secretary treasurer. Brodsky said he wanted any and all emails, text messages, and instant messages sent between February the 12th and February 23rd, which coincidentally happened to be about the same time the UAW was dealing with pressure to capitulate to the ADL's demands. It's entirely possible the investigation is legitimate, but the timing sure is suspicious. Especially since Republicans recently held a hearing over claims of rampant anti-Semitism in unions that took particular aim at pro-ceasefire UAW locals. Brodsky has also announced that he plans to expand the scope of his investigation, and this is just me, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Brodsky is also going to lose some copies of internal union documents, including text mails, emails, and all that, which will probably be passed over to the ADL, which will be passed over to people at AIPAC, which will then be passed over to members of the Israeli government. So, because it is the Israeli government is very much known for keeping profiles on people in other countries who are not in full support of their genocide in Gaza. This is an anti-genocide channel. This is why we are pro Palestine. This is why we are pro-Ukraine. So, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, I think ultimately I think that the UAW. I love everything Sean Fain's been doing for the UAW. I am very much a pro-union guy. So, when I heard that he had an investigation going on for financial dealings, I was kind of had a little cognitive dissonance with that, not wanting to believe it, but I was going to wait and see. I did a wait and see model before passing judgment, and I'm very happy I did, because obviously this is politically motivated. I think Neil Borofsky is going to keep his job after this. I don't believe that anything really is going to happen to him per se, but I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if Borofsky continues to do anything and everything to kind of control the UAW and force them to to endorse Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. So, hey, thanks for watching. If you want to talk to me outside of this video, outside of live streams, or just join the community and be a part of it, you can do so at HIMediaTV/Discord. Discord links there. We'd love to have you. And given the financial situation of the economy right now, I know this is a tall ask, but if you have the scratch to spare, please consider donating and becoming a supporter at HIMedia.gg/tip. All of our perks are serviced through our Discord channel, including early access videos, exclusive videos, and more. Your generosity is a blessing, and $1 a month is a boon to my mental health. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate you, and have a great day.